TheAngryHoneyBadger.
Hey everyone, it is TheAngryHoneyBadger, and it is time for another champion build video. We'll be playing as a Blitzcrank today in the bot lane, obviously, as the support. We're going to take a look at his runes and his masteries and his abilities and the items, of course, that you want to probably be building while playing Blitzcrank. We're going to talk about pros and cons, we'll talk about some strategy, and really about what synergy you want to do when you play as him. So, kicking things off, we'll start out with abilities in just a second. We're about to get into a fight. So, right off the bat, Blitzcrank has the pulls. You always want to do that. Rip people into your turrets. So getting pushed against as Blitzcrank is fantastic for you. It allows you to pick up kills if the enemy plays a little bit sloppy or if you find great openings. So that is something we're definitely going to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive into those abilities. Starting off with, of course, his Q ability, which is his rocket grab. That is what fires his hand out in a straight line. It will hit a unit, if it hits a unit, and it will pull them back to your location, and it will deal magic damage. Now, you can obviously get minions if minions are in the way, so gotta be obviously cautious of hitting minions. So a smart player against Blitzcrank always keeps a minion between him and Blitzcrank in lane, or at least enough distance where he can't close the gap with the grab. So yeah, that's your rocket grab. I'm gonna max this out first so we get its cooldown reduced. Then at level 2, put a point into your Power Fist. That is, of course, your E ability. When you charge this up, your next auto attack will deal double damage, and it will pop the target up into the air. Also, just more crowd control. Typically, you want to pull them and then pop them up right away. They will just basically get stuck in that position. We'll talk about other ways you can use your Power Fist too coming up, because there's more than one way that a lot of people make mistakes if they're new to playing Blitzcrank or if they're just new to supporting or just using him. And then at level 3, you put a point into your Overdrive. That's your W ability. Blitzcrank supercharges himself, and it gives him increased movement speed and increased attack speed by a percentage for 8 seconds. It's very nice, good for catching up to team fights, getting in position to set up a grab, although it'll also notify the enemy team that you might be trying to do that because you have that speed up for the next 8 seconds, so you have to be cautious of that. We're going to max this out last, just because you don't need it tremendously. There's other ways we're going to get our movement speed. And then obviously your ultimate is what you'll put a point in at level 6. That's your static field. Passively, lightning actually arcs off of Blitzcrank, randomly hitting enemies, dealing magic damage every 2.5 seconds. And it does a decent amount of damage. You'll steal minions with it a little bit. You'll hit people in team fights and get kills with it if you didn't use the active part of it. So you have to be careful about that, but it is good damage and it is good to have. Here we're going to actually... What are we going to do? Knock him up under the tower if we can? He's going to take a few hits. No, we don't have it yet, but he took a lot of damage. Now he's getting knocked up under the tower. He'll get killed. And now we have the TP coming in from Rise, and we actually pick up the kill with our static field, which then the active portion of it, when you use it, it silences all enemies around them for 0.5 seconds. And then your passive is not in effect when it is on cooldown. So you have to take that into note. It does a little bit more damage, obviously, than the passive parts of static field, but for the most part, that's what it does. One great thing about your static field is that silence. That is huge in a team fight. If you're ever in a team fight or you grab a target that you're afraid is going to either slip away, or let's say you grab an Annie with Tibbers up and stun, if you grab her and immediately silence her and knock her up, hopefully your team can just blow her up before she can use any of her abilities. Here we have Mantheon dropping in. He's going to pick up a kill, and then another kill going over to Corky. We're going to get this lane really working well. If you actually look in mid, it's not going well for our... it's actually not going well in top or mid right now. So here we're going to move back down, though, quick. There is another fight. Darius actually came in. We're going to go ahead and rip Warwick back into the turret, knock him up. He's going to get hit by the towers. He actually then uses his ult while taking turret damage. And yeah, I actually picked up the kill on that one from my passive, so on that static field. So we talked about his abilities, max at Q, then your E, then your W, obviously ultimate 6, 11, and 16 where you would put the points at. Now as for those abilities, let's talk about those a little bit. I've toyed around with 2 different ones. Obviously for the beginning, God, we're in a million fights this game. There's a million fights this game. I'm just going to throw that out there. We're getting into more of a fight right now. The silence goes off to stop them from trying to chase down Corky. Now we're retreating further back under tower. Rip Lucian back. He had the flash. He was afraid he was in range. they stack up, and Corky gets some great bombs off and picks up the double kill. So, yeah, whew, okay, no fights for a little bit, good. All right, so as for items for Blitzcrank, I've rocked a few different versions when going with the Ancient Coin and with the Relic Shield. Now, Coin's great for a few reasons. If you gotta play passively because of either your ADC or you just like what it gives you, Ancient Coin's really not a bad choice. It's consistent, and the passive on Talisman, once you have maxed out, is actually awesome to use with speeding yourself up and the team up for getting in position. That's one fantastic aspect of that item, and it's not a bad one. Now, one nice thing about Relic Shield is it's Relic Shield, and you get to split the gold with your ADC, which is, of course, fantastic to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I like to take it. And later on, you can use it to help your targets by giving that shield. Helps everybody with beefiness, really, in general, too. And this is a good item. I take that one. Also does give each other health, obviously, when you use those charges off in lane, which is good to share that. And that's what we will be building. We've actually already finished it off into the face of the mountain. We want that fairly early. It is important. Now, the next item that we've rushed as well would be the Sight Stone. You always want to pick that up so you have wards at your disposal. It's very important to obviously have this. Vision is key. Vision saves lives by a ward. Or get a Sight Stone and have very, very, very many lots of wards. Yes, reasons. All right, so we're under a turret. We're going to rip Darius into it. We're going to knock him up, and then he's going to get stunned. He's going to have to flash. He does get out, but now Lucian is exhausted, and he's going to take a little too much punishment, hopefully. Very, very low. Here comes a final hit. Another pull on the Darius. He's going to get killed. Unfortunately, Pantheon will bleed out from Ignite and the bleed, but actually, that's going over to Brom. And then we're going to go catch up with Xerath. Give him a knock up, little pump up. If I'm on someone this close too, I'm not going to usually pull them unless I just really want to make sure they're not going anywhere. But like, if your knockup's up, you're going to use that instead of your pull, or else you might miss your pull. It's honestly not that hard to dodge. And you can kind of read it when he's going to do it. So you have to be careful about that. We'll see this later on too, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. We're going to go over to those items though again. We did the Sight Stone, and then early on you also want to pick up your Boots of Mobility. Obviously, when you are passively not in combat, you move around a lot quicker, which then helps you with then pulling people. Here, I'm taking a lot of damage, but that's okay because Pantheon's got the man drop in. We're going to go ahead and knock up the Lucian. Keep him CC'd. He's taking a lot of damage. Make sure you keep standard attacking too. Actually pick up the kill. Doesn't matter. Kill all the things. Here, once again, knock him up. Then maybe pull him if he's getting away. Not necessary. But the pull is now back up. Do we want to grab anybody? No, we break off for a second, then we realize that we have the Zillion coming in from mid. So now we're going to move in. We see Darius. We'll get a quick pull on him. Really not super necessary, but in case he went for a flash over the wall, ain't happening. Or if somebody's going to flash, then hook them to where they would have flashed over the wall. That's always fun to bring them back over, because then they're really not getting away. But yeah, anyways, back to the items. We'll go back to those. Boots of Mobility. Very important, obviously. Like I said, getting in position and landing those grabs. That is definitely the boots you want. I know a lot of people are like, well, what about cooldown reduction boots? I want cooldown reduction. Very well and true, but we're getting cooldown in other ways, which is what we're actually working on. Right now, we've actually picked up a little bit of offense, or not offense, a little bit more of magic resist and armor. Now, we have the Glacial Shroud, which is granting us mana, which is helping us out with our passive on Blitzcrank, which we didn't even talk about, but your mana barrier. When you fall below 20% health, you get a mana barrier, a shield that is 50% of your current mana, which lasts 10 seconds, which is pretty awesome. It's on 90-second cooldown, I believe. And then what's great about this is obviously if you build more mana, then you'll have more at your disposal for that shield, which is great. Now you don't need to do this you don't need to just build straight mana items to do this. I know a lot of people like to try to get tier and stack it. That used to be a really popular thing. It's a terrible idea. Don't do that. I've explained it in previous Blitz builds why it's bad. It just takes forever to actually stack, and it's not a helpful item on Blitzcrank. So what we're going to do to actually get some good mana, though, is we'll have the Glacial Shroud, and we will build that actually into a Frozen Heart later on. I know some people like the Iceborne Gauntlet. It's not terrible, but the nice thing about Heart is the passive on it, which is really, really important. So we're going to be building towards that. Now, what we did with our Magic Resist is we actually built that into an Aegis of the Legion at the moment, and of course that will turn in to our Locket of the Iron Solari, which will help our teammates passively with some Magic Resist and some health regen, very good item. Also, all these items are really putting us into a good position to just get really, really beefy. Because the nice thing about Blitzcrank is, besides the part where you can rip somebody into your team, if he needs to run into somebody's team to knock him up, if the pole's down, he is a good makeshift tank. He's a tanky support. You should play him that way, and he deals okay damage. It's mostly about getting in there, though, and really using that static field to silence everybody. Here we're going to rip Darius under the tower. He actually gets a kill quick. He's pretty... well, not pretty fed, but he's got kills. He was doing work in top lane for a while. But yeah, we're going to keep running in. We're fast. We have a bomb on our head, all that fun stuff. Going to knock Braum up. They're going to finish him off. I'm just going to run past him because I don't want him. Okay, we're going to grab the Xerath. I'm running away from him because I'm expecting them to clean that up, which of course they will. And once somebody's pretty much dead, I'm pretty much going to peel once I know they're going to have it. Here we're going to knock up Warwick, get him off of Zillion. Zillion actually does use the ultimate, which means Warwick can't really go to kill him at the moment, or else that will be bad news bears. And yeah, we're gonna do all that stuff. Always remember too, your silence is great for getting people off of them with that, like especially Warwick, like perfect. You can knock him up, you can pull him, or you can silence him off of any of the targets on your team that may be getting suppressed by him at the time. So also really good at denying Katarina whenever she jumps in. Man, always just save the static field for her, or the knockup. Just save the knockup for her. Really, just run up and go, bloop, you're dead. Gonna just knock you out of your ultimate. Very helpful. So we finished off the Locket of the Iron Solari, and then we have the Frozen Heart, which will reduce Lucian's attack speed and anybody else's attack speed is what we're really going for. Also, tons of armor and mana, so that's great for us. Iceborne Gauntlet, like I said, you would get the passive of the slow and that little bit of extra damage, which would be good. But I'm really liking the Frozen Heart a bit more. It's just utility-wise for the team is helpful because it's passively working all the time. If they're around you. So that's what we're going for early. And that's kind of, honestly, the core. That's what you'd call the core of the build. But now we will transition into pros and cons and runes and mastery. So, pros and cons. He's a good support. And he's good mid and late game because of the pick potential. Being able to turn a fight from 5v5 into a 4v5 instantly after annihilating a target is it's a game changer. That can win you a game, which is why people actually like to pick him and or ban him in ranked play. Occasionally, you'd be like, why they ban Blitz? Blitz actually creates that situation quite a lot. So you get to late game, the enemy team's a little bit ahead of you, and you get a pull and you annihilate one of their carries. That's going to be an objective or even more. So you got to be really careful about that. That's why he's a pretty powerful pick, to be honest. That's one of his huge pros. Cons, obviously if you miss it, you are reliant upon that most of the time. You are really hard on your mana, which is a little unfortunate early, but as the game goes on, that's fine. We've actually picked up a Chalice because we're going to build a Mikael's, and yeah, that's one thing. That's great. You can pick that up if you want to a little bit early to make sure you don't run out of mana, but obviously we have mana with the Frozen Heart, so we're going to have mana, just a big pool of it there, which is helpful. There we're going to pull Darius back. You ain't getting away. Now we're going to run back down here. Help Corki after his GA actually gets pocked. He's going to jump over the wall. We're just going to knock somebody up. Probably Warwick. Yep. And he's going to get murdered, which is fun. And we're beefy. And we have our mana shield. And we can activate Locket. And we can put the Face of the Mountain on somebody. We have so many shields. We also are super just supportive and helpful of the team. And now we're probably going to go win. But yeah. Let's talk about those runes and masteries. Masteries, pretty simple. Here's a picture of it. That's all I'm going to say. Look at it over, pause the video if you want to see it more. As for runes, you really want to pick up a lot of armor in the lane at least. You probably want the armor marks and seals. Those are going to be pretty helpful. And then the magic resist glyphs are great. And then I actually like movement speed Quints, although gold Quints obviously would be fantastic because of gold generation. That's also good as a support. Movement speed's great though for getting in position early with those hooks if you want to do that. So that is Blitzcrank. Everything you need to know is in the description. Go grab some people and kill them, and I'll see all of you in the next build. Okay, we're going to take a look at a build video for Zac in the jungle. Now, I know that Season 5 is actually not too far away, and that is going to mean that there will be a handful of changes